Okay, everyone, we are now live. Mr. Mayor, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you, Brittany. I shall call the meeting to order. Brittany, would you take the roll call, please?
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate you are present for the record. Mayor Dwight Burley.
Or?
Present.
Oh, present.
Member Carol Bartlett.
Present.
Councillor Grant Pringle.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton.
Present.
Councillor Paul Sutherland is absent. Councillor Ryan Thompson is currently absent. He will be joining us shortly. And Councillor Kathy Moore-Coburn.
Present.
Thank you, and we have quorum.
Thank you, Brittany. If there's any declaration of peculiar interest, you can clear any time you see fit during the meeting. Minutes of the previous minutes. I have a recommendation that the minutes of the Committee of Adjustment meeting held on February 18th, 2020 be adopted. Do you have a mover to put on the floor, please?
Grant.
Moved by Grant. Second,
So
Ryan, I believe.
So that was Councillor Barfoot, but Kathy and Sue both have their hand raised. So for the record, we'll say Grant and Carol for this motion, but thank you for using your hand features, ladies.
Brittany, will you take the vote, please?
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion. Member Carol Barfoot.
For.
Member Grant Pringle.
For.
Member Kathy Moore-Coburn.
For.
Member Sutherland and Member Thompson are absent. And Member Dwight Burley.
For.
Thank you, and that carries.
You missed me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry.
And I'm for.
Thank you. And that carries, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Moving on our agenda then, appointment of a Secretary Treasurer. I have a recommendation that the Committee of Adjustment appoint Devin Morton as Secretary Treasurer of the committee and that Jen Bennett be appointed Deputy Secretary Treasurer of the committee and that said appointments take immediate effect. Do someone to move it, put it on the floor, please. Brittany,
That was moved by Kathy.
moved by Kathy, second by Grant. Okay, for some reason, Brittany, I have lost my hand. Show on the screen. Okay. Would you take the vote, please?
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion. Councillor Grant Pringle, I did have to mute you, so you'll have to unmute yourself. Member Dwight Burley.
For.
Member Carol Barfoot.
For.
Member Grant Pringle.
For.
Member Sue Carlton.
For.
Member Paul Sutherland and Member Ryan Thompson are both absent. And Member Kathy Moore-Coburn. Thank you, and that carries.
Thank you. We are now down to new applications. This is a meeting of the Committee of Adjustment to consider the application for minor variance for Curtis and Christina Mink under Section 45 of the Planning Act regarding property legally described as Concession 3 East, Part Lot 10. Devin, would you give the Treasurer's report, please? The Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There have been no requests for deferral or withdrawal of the application. Notice of this minor variance hearing in accordance with Ontario Regulation 296 made under the Planning Act was given on May 21st, 2020 by ordinary mail to all property owners within 60 meters of the property, which is subject to the application, and to all the registered agencies. Notice was also posted on the subject lands and the Township's website. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the Committee of Adjustment, you must make a written request to the Secretary Treasurer of the committee. Only a person or public body that requests a notice of decision of the committee in respect to this proposed minor variance may submit an appeal. could the planner give us the updated planning report regarding this file? It's also myself.
Devin, please give the planning report.
This planning report's pretty straightforward. It's a minor variance seeking a reduction to the environmental protection setback. The application requests relief to zoning bylaw 2020-020 to permit a 144 square meter or 1,550 square foot garage with the 0 meter setback to the environmental protection zone. This application satisfies the 4 tests approved. We did circulate this application to all relevant agencies. There have been comments received back from the County of Grey Planning Department in correspondence dated February 7th. The County of Grey Planning Department acknowledges the proposal satisfies any and all related policies and have no further concerns, provided that positive comments are received from Grey Soluble Conservation Authority. In response to that, positive comments were received from Grey Soluble Conservation Authority on June 6, 2020. In their correspondence, Grey Soluble has no objections to the approval of the subject application. They do request a copy of the decision and notice of any appeals filed. Grey County Transportation Services, in correspondence dated June 4th, they have reviewed the subject application and have no concerns. And the Historic Saugeen Métis were also circulated, and in correspondence in May 28th, they note they have reviewed the relevant documents and have no objection. The notice of complete application and public hearing was circulated to all property owners within 60 meters. We did receive one written comment from resident Bill Turner, and I will read it as follows. Angela and I would like to voice our support for the new structure proposed by the Mink family. Being a neighbor and knowing the site well, we feel there is no reason not to proceed with the construction. There will be little to no risk to the adjacent watercourses. So finally, the conclusion and recommendation. The application to request relief from zoning bylaw 2020 to permit construction of a new 144 square meter garage with a 0 meter setback from the environmental protection zone satisfies the 4 test of a minor variance as required by the Planning Act, and the recommendation is that application A0220 be approved.
Thanks, Devin. I now call upon the members of the public who wish to make comments on this application. Please state your first and last names for the record prior to beginning. Brittany, I shall turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and we did not have any public register to participate today.
Thank you. Are there any points raised by the applicant, committee, or public that anyone wishes to reply to? There was none. I will call for a motion on this decision. I have a recommendation that the application to request relief from zoning bylaw 2020 to permit the construction of a new 144 square meter 1,550 square feet garage with a 0 meter setback from the environmental protected zone satisfies the 4 tests of a minor variance as required by the Planning Act, RSO 1990 P13. The recommendation is that application A0220 for Curtis and Christine Mink be approved. Do I have someone to move to put the motion on the floor, please?
So that was moved by Sue and seconded by Kathy.
I'll now for a call for a vote on the decision, please.
So, Mr. Mayor, first, I'd like to know that the committee doesn't have any questions or any comments on the motion prior to calling the vote.
Does council have any questions on the, does the committee have any questions? I don't think there is any, Britt.
Okay, so I will call for approval of the recommendation. So when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion. Member Dwight Burley.
For.
Member Carol Barfoot.
For.
Member Grant Pringle.
4,
Member Sue Carlton.
4.
Member Sutherland is absent. Member Ryan Thompson.
4.
And Member Kathy Moore Coburn.
4.
Thank you, and that carries.
Is anyone else getting a lot of feedback?
Yes, I am.
I wonder if we all mute, if it'll cut down that.
I can't mute Ryan, or you wouldn't hear me. I'll now call for an adjournment of this hearing. I guess it's moved by Ryan. Brittany, I have no hand function on my
So
screen.
moved. I have no hands free, so I'll move it. Seconded.
So that was moved by Ryan and seconded by Carol.
Thank you. And a vote's not required, Brittany?
So, Mr. Mayor, you can move on to your second application, being BO 220 for Reg McDonald.
Thanks, Brittany. This is a meeting of the Committee of Adjustment to consider the application for consent for Reginald McDonald Holdings Incorporated under Section 53 of the Planning Act regarding property legally described as Part Lot 65, Lot 66, Plan 535. With the Secretary Treasurer, Devin, would you give your report, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There have been no requests for deferral of this application. Notice of this consent in accordance with Ontario Regulation 296 made under the Planning Act was given on May 21st, 2020 by ordinary mail to all property owners within 60 meters of the property which is subject to this application and to all the required agencies. Notice was also posted on the subject lands and the Township's website. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the Committee of Adjustment, you must make a written request to the Secretary Treasurer of the Committee. Only a person or public body that requests a notice of the decision of the Committee in this respect to the proposed minor variance may submit an appeal. Could the planner give us the updated planning report regarding this file?
Mr. Mayor, you are muted.
Okay,
Thank you. Go again.
thank you. Just as a correction, it's not a minor variance application. It is a severance, just for the record. So this first severance application, B0220, is for Reg McDonald Holdings. This specifically is the Bay West Mitsubishi property along the Sunset Strip. So the committee may recall receiving an application for the Mitsubishi property a year or two ago. And that was, the owner wants to do a lot addition to the back of the property from the adjacent lot that he owns so that he can put a building addition on. So it's a 4-bay garage, and the proposal is to put that addition on and then to relocate the septic system. So they needed a little bit of extra land. On the back of the report, excuse me, we have included a site plan for the committee's review, and it clearly shows where severance application number 1, the lot addition, will be added to the Bay West Mitsubishi property. So when we look at the policies that affect this application, we see that the county official plan under Schedule A designates the subject property as space extensive commercial, and that designation permits automobile sales and services. So what's going on there is a permitted use. And then our Georgian Bluffs official plan also identifies it. It's identified within the Sunset Strip development area and permits vehicle sales and services. So it complies with both of the official plans that apply. We noted before in the previous application that The county official plan under Appendix B identifies significant woodlands on the property, but when we look at the air photo history, we can see that those trees were removed somewhere between 2010 and 2015. So that's no longer a concern on that property. The provincial policy statement does allow for private servicing in settlement areas to allow for infilling and minor rounding out of existing development. And we will be, obviously the permit, a building permit application is required prior to the septic system being approved. The other thing that's important to look at is the fact that the property is along a provincial highway. So the provincial policy statement notes that where development is proposed along a provincial highway, it cannot impede the purpose of the highway, which is a transportation corridor for safe and efficient movement of goods and people. So we did have this application reviewed by the MTO, and they don't have any objections to it. Stormwater management is also important to address. It is an undersized lot according to the bylaws, the zoning bylaw. So there is the accompanying zoning bylaw amendment application that seeks relief to lot area and frontage for this parcel. And we, through the previous severance application, we did go through site plan control review, and that was at the request, one of the recommendations of the Grace Level Conservation Authority. There is an existing site plan agreement registered on this property, and what we have done is the engineer for the applicant provided us with an updated plan, and so that plan is we're going to update the actual agreement, so council may see that coming before them, provided this application is approved and they're able to register the lots. So that will be updated. We're not going to move through that process right now because we want to wait till we actually get the new legal description for the parcel as well as the PIN. So if we can get an accurate property identification for it, we only have to do it once. Because the legal description on this property will change after the severance. So that was, it's an engineered plan that was updated, and it was reviewed by the Conservation Authority and Township staff, and there was no concern with that moving forward. So as I mentioned, there is a zoning bylaw amendment application submitted. It's going to be considered by council tomorrow evening, and it will recognize a deficient lot frontage and area for this parcel. There, because the properties were created, or because this is a lot addition, we don't technically ask for parkland dedication for a lot addition, so there is no recommendation for for parkland dedication or cash in lieu as part of the proposed conditions. So we did circulate this application to various agencies. What they did was we circulated one notice. It included this severance application, the next scheduled one, which is B03, as well as the zoning bylaw amendment application. And the agencies provided comments on the three applications just under one comment letter. So in email correspondence dated April 2nd, Grace Level Conservation Authority notes that there are natural hazards and heritage features. No development is proposed within these features, and so you have to remember that this is actually the Nissan, the Toyota, and the and considering the Mitsubishi property as well, because through past severance applications, when the lots were registered in the same name for business purposes, they merged. So when we circulated the application, it has to include the three of them. So some of the natural hazard and heritage features, they're not on the Mitsubishi property, they're on the larger parcels. So Conservation Authority has no objection to the approval of the applications, and they wish to be notified of any decision made by the township or any appeals received with regards to the application. Grey County Planning and Development, no concerns, as the subject applications are not proposing any new development, and they request notice of any decision rendered with respect to the applications. The Niagara Escarpment Commission have no objection to the proposed consent or zoning bylaw amendment, and they request to be notified of the decision on these applications. Historic Saugeen Métis have no concerns or opposition, and the Ministry of Transportation, they have noted they have no concerns with this proposal. MTO permits will be required for the addition, and the property owner can apply for the required MTO permits electronically. Suncor Energy Products Partnership, in their comments dated May 22nd, 2020, they note that Suncor would have no concerns with this proposed development work. So the application were circulated to all properties within 120 meters because they are a severance and combined zoning application. And we didn't receive any comments in support of or in opposition to the application. So let me just find my page here. So provided there's no concerns raised this evening within this hearing, it's recommended that the application B0220 be approved subject to the following proposed conditions that are in the report. The applications are consistent with the county official plan, the Township of Georgian Bluffs official plan, and the intent of the zoning bylaw. So the recommendation is to approve the application.
Mr. Mayor, you're muted.
Thanks, Jen. I now call upon members of the public who wish to make comment on this application. Please state your first and last names for the record prior to beginning. Brittany, I'll turn it over to Brittany.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We only had one registrant for both McDonald applications, and that is planning consultant Ron Davidson. Ron is on the line with us. Mr. Davidson, would you like to make any comments?
Sure. First of all, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you. I'll be very brief. First of all, I should thank Brittany. She's been very helpful in the last few weeks in organizing and helping me. I'm kind of a spaz when it comes to this online meeting stuff. And she has every right to roll her eyes, but she's not rolling her eyes right now. So thank you, Brittany. So I represent Reg McDonald for this application, and the next one we're going to hear in a minute. There's really not much to say here. Reg is desperately trying to get building on his the expansion that Jen talked about of the Mitsubishi building. Unfortunately, the COVID-19 pandemic has pushed things back. So it's great we got this on the agenda. So hopefully council can, or the committee in this case, approve this, and then the rezoning as soon as possible. I guess tomorrow night, so Reg can get building. So I really have nothing further to say other than if there are any questions, please ask.
Thanks, Ron. Brittany, was there any other public responses? Are there any points raised by the applicant, committee, or public that anyone wishes to reply to? Does the committee have any questions? See no hands. I now call for a motion on this decision. The committee has received written or oral submissions during the hearing and have taken these submissions into considerations as will be further described in the minutes of this hearing. The Committee of Adjustment approves severance application B0220 for Reginald McDonald Holdings Incorporated, subject to the following conditions. 1, the reference plan be completed and a copy filed with the municipal clerk on exemption from the reference plan received from the Land Registry Office. 2, that pursuant to Section 5342 of the Planning Act, the certificate of consent be affixed to the deed within 1 year of giving us a notice of decision. Note, Section 5343 of the Planning Act requires that the transition approved by this consent must be carried out within 2 years of the issuing certificate, stamping of the deed. 3, that the applicant pays the applicable $300 consent certification fee at the time of certification of these deeds. 4, that the applicant is for applications for lot addition and that the lands be severed be merged under the same ownership as admitted lands. Plan 5335, Part Lot 6516R, 10265, Part 1, 202401, Highway 6 and 21, and that subsection 3 or 4 of Section 50 of the Planning Act apply to any subsequent conveyances. A copy of the registered deed to be abutted lands, Plan 5535, Part Lot 6516R, 10265, Part 1, 204-2410, Highway 6 and 21, shall be filed with the Township of Georgian Bluffs Committee of Adjustments. Do someone to move the motion, please? Moved by Sue, second by
Also
Grant.
move.
Second by Grant. If there's no discussion on the motion, Brittany, we take the vote, please.
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion as presented. Member Dwight Burley.
For.
Member Carol Barfoot.
4,
Member Grant Pringle.
4,
Member Sue Carlton.
4.
Member Sutherland is absent. Member Ryan Thompson.
4.
And Member Kathy Moore Coburn.
4.
Thank you, and that carries.
Thank you. I now call for adjournment of this hearing. I'm going to move it, please. Moved by Councillor Coburn, second by
I'll second the motion.
Councillor Thompson. Okay, now I'll move on to our next. This is a meeting of the Committee of Adjustment to consider the application for consent for Reginald McDonald Holdings Incorporated under Section 3 of the Planning Act regarding property legally described as Part Lot 65, Lot 66, Plan 535. Will the Secretary Treasurer please give your report? Devin?
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's been no request for deferral or withdrawal of the application. Notice of this consent in accordance with Ontario Regulation 296 made under the Planning Act was given on May 21st, 2020 by ordinary mail to all property owners within 60 meters of the property, which is subject to the application, and to all the required agencies. Notice was also posted on the subject lands and the Township's website. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the Committee of Adjustment, you must make a written request to the Secretary Treasurer of the Committee. Only a person or public body that requests a notice of the decision of the Committee in respect to this consent may submit an appeal. Could the planner give us the updated planning report regarding this file?
Jen?
So application B320 is really straightforward. It's just essentially to separate the Toyota and Nissan properties from each other. How they merged, it was just in the last couple of years, I believe, when there was an application, I think in 2013 or 2014, for a severance for an easement. And when that severance for the easement was registered, everything was done in separate names, so it didn't spoil the severance that was on the Nissan property. So what happened was when they went to put all of the names for those properties into one holding, that's when they merged. Because once you spoil the severance and the names are registered and they're exactly the same, then the properties will merge back. So this application is just really to separate it. There is a there was relief requested through the zoning bylaw amendment application, and that's just to recognize deficient lot frontages for the Nissan property, which is at 44 meters, and the Bay West Toyota, which is at 77. Our bylaw requires that they be 100 meters in that C4 space extensive commercial zone. When we look at the policies that affect this, it's pretty straightforward because the no development at all is being proposed on either one of those properties. It's a fairly straightforward policy review. They're located in the space extensive commercial designation under the county official plan and the Sunset Strip development area. Both of those designations permit vehicle sales and service. They're existing businesses, and there's and the MTO has reviewed it, and they're satisfied with the existing entrances, and they may just need new permits. And then we're not recommending parkland dedication or cash in lieu for this severance either, because when they separated these properties in 2012, I believe it was, they already paid that amount. So the parkland dedication requirement has been satisfied. So as I mentioned before, we did circulate the application to the various agencies, and I'm not going to reread the comments. They are in the report. I just read them 5 minutes ago. Unless there are any comments there that the committee would like me to repeat. And again, with this one, there were no comments received from anybody within 120 meters of the property. Because this application B0320 meets all the policies so it's consistent with the county official plan, the Township of Georgian Bluffs official plan, and the intent of the zoning bylaw. The recommendation is to approve the application subject to the conditions that are listed in the report under B0320.
Thanks, Jen. Now I'll call upon the members of the public who wish to make comment on this application. Please state your first, last name for the record prior to beginning. I'll turn over to you, Brittany.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, we only had one registrant for application B0320, and that is Mr. Ron Davidson, the planning consultant. Mr. Davidson, do you have any comments to add?
You're muted.
I have nothing further to add. Jen has done a good job on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Was there any points raised by the applicant, committee, or public that anyone wishes to reply to? Does the committee have any questions? Seeing none, I now call for a motion on the decision. The committee has received written or oral submissions during the hearing and have taken these submissions into consideration, as well be further described in the minutes of this hearing. The Committee of Adjustment approves severance application B0320 for Reginald McDonald Holdings Incorporated, subject to the following conditions. 1, that a reference plan be completed and a copy with the municipal clerk, or an exemption from the reference plan be received from the Land Registry Office. 2, that pursuant to Section 5342 of the Planning Act, the certificate of consent be affixed to the deed within 1 year of the given notice of the decision. Note, Section 5343 of the Planning Act requires that the transactions approved by the consent must be carried out within 2 years of the issuance of the certificate, that is, stamping of the deeds. 3, that the applicant pays a applicable $300 consent certification fee at the time of certification of the deeds. Do I someone to move the motion, please? Moved by Councillor Colburn, second by?
I'll second.
Second by Ryan. Councillor Thompson. If there's no other discussion, Brittany, you take the vote, please.
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion as presented. Member Dwight Burley.
For.
Member Carol Barfoot,
4.
Member Grant Pringle,
4.
Member Sue Carlton,
4.
Member Sutherland is absent, Member Ryan Thompson,
4.
and Member Kathy Moore Coburn.
4.
Thank you, and that carries.
Thank you. And now I'll call for adjournment of this hearing. Do I someone to move? Motion to adjourn. Moved by Deputy Mayor Carlton, second by
So moved.
second by Councilor Barfoot. Okay, moving on for our last item. This is the meeting of the Committee of Adjustment to consider application for consent for Ivan Shelton under Section 53 of the Planning Act regarding property legally described as Part Lot 38 and 39, Concession 24. Will the Secretary Treasurer give the report, please? Devin?
Great, thank you, Mr. Mayor. There have been no requests for deferral or withdrawal of the application. Notice of this consent in accordance with Ontario Regulation 296, made under the Planning Act, was given on January 14th, 2020 by ordinary mail to all property owners within 60 meters of the property which is subject to the application and to all the required, all the required agencies. Notice was also posted on the subject lands and on the Township's website. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the Committee of Adjustment, you must make a written request to the Secretary Treasurer of the Committee. Only a person or public body that requests a notice of the decision of the Committee in respect to this proposed consent may submit an appeal. I will now give the updated planning report in regards to this file.
Thanks, Devin. Go ahead.
So this one is pretty straightforward. Essentially, we were waiting on a development permit to be issued from the NEC in order to finalize this severance. Since the last meeting, we have received said development permit from the NEC. So it's the recommendation that application B0120 be approved.
Thanks, Devin. I now call upon members of the public who wish to make comment on this application. Please state your first and last name for the record prior to beginning. Excuse me, I'll turn over to you, Brittany.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We had one registrant to participate in this portion of the meeting, and that is Miss Antoine Diamond. Miss Diamond is on the line with us. Miss Diamond, would you like to make a comment? I did mute you, so you will have to unmute yourself.
Thank you, Brittany. I actually have nothing further to add to the comprehensive report that I've received, and appreciate the work that the George and Bluffs has put into making this application move forward. My name is Anton Diamond. I work for the Bruce Trail Conservancy. Okay.
Thanks, Anton.
That's it. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. We have no other public responses, Brittany? None. Are there any points raised by the applicant, committee, or public that anyone wishes to apply to? Does the committee have any questions? Seeing none? And now I'll call for a motion on this decision. The committee has received written or oral submissions during the hearing and have taken these submissions into consideration as be further described in the minutes of this hearing. The Committee of Adjustment approved severance application B0120 for Sheldon. Do I have someone to move to put the motion on the floor, please? Moved by Councillor Colburn, second by
So moved. Second.
Councillor Barfoot. If there's no other discussion, we can take a vote, please.
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion as presented. Member Dwight Burley.
4.
Member Carol Barfoot.
4.
Member Grant Pringle.
4.
Member Sue Carlton.
4.
Member Sutherland is absent. Member Ryan Thompson.
4.
And Member Kathy Moore Coburn.
4.
Thank you, and that carries.
Thank you. I now call for an adjournment of this hearing. Do I have a mover, please? Do I have a mover to adjourn this public
Also
meeting?
move.
Moved by Councilor Thompson, seconded by Councilor Pringle.
Carol.
Okay, it's now adjourned. Our next committee adjustment meeting is July 14th, I believe, according to my script. And
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that's correct.
so we no other business on this committee of adjustment meeting? If
No,
not,
we don't.
I ask for an adjournment of the meeting. Moved by Deputy Mayor Carlton, second by Councilor Pringle. If there's no other discussion on the minutes, Brittany, you take the vote, please.
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against adjournment at 4:45 p.m. Member Dwight Burley.
4.
Member Carol Barfoot.
4.
Member Grant Pringle.
4.
Member Sue Carlton.
4.
Member Sutherland is absent. Member Ryan Thompson.
4.
And Member Kathy Moore Coburn.
4.
Thank you, and we are adjourned.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow evening for council, 4 o'clock. See you later.
Bye.